All right, it is 3 o'clock. So we are going to go ahead and start this webinar today. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is April Willis, and I am going to be your host today as we learn a little bit more about what it's like to work at Proximity Learning. With us, we have a few representatives from the HR department, and we also have a few teacher representatives. The questions that we're going to go through are going to give each of them an opportunity to share their perspective so that you can better understand expectations and what it's really like to work for Proximity Learning. So before we jump right in, I would love to remind you of just a couple of logistical items. First of all, if you have a question, we want to answer them. This is absolutely considered a Q&A session. We have a few scripted questions we'll get through, but we definitely want to hear from you. If you have a question, please drop it in the Q&A box, not the chat box. We encourage you to use the chat box if you all want to talk to each other, you want to share your encouragement or enthusiasm, that's great. You can do that in the chat box. If you have a question you would like our panelists to answer, please use the Q&A box. That way we'll be able to monitor which questions have and have not been answered yet. We will do our very best to answer as many questions as possible, but the last few times we have hosted this webinar, it actually goes all the way to the top of the hour and we have to end at that time. And so we will do our very best to answer as many questions as we possibly can. For that reason, we are also going to hold on answering some of the Q&A questions until about halfway through, because we know we start to see a lot of repeated questions and sometimes people show up a little late. So we're going to wait a little bit towards the middle of the webinar before we actually start answering your Q&A questions. We might have already answered them by the time we get there. One final thing to note is this is being recorded. So if you are not able to watch live with us, we hope you are enjoying this recorded option right now. We're going to go ahead and jump right in by learning a little bit more about our panelists. So first we've got John from HR. John, hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you. Would you mind telling us just a little bit about your role?
Yes, I am the senior HR manager at Proximity Learning. I help out with all HR functions and also do a lot of the hiring with teachers.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Also on the HR side, we have Samantha White. Hi, Samantha. Would you tell us a little bit about your role?
Sure can. I'm the lead recruiter here at Proximity. So I support John with whatever I can. And then I also work with our talent acquisition team to hire teachers and put them through the application and interview process.
Perfect. Thanks so much. And now we're going to hear from some of our teachers. Lee Nichols, hello. Will you tell us what you teach?
I teach mathematics, middle school and high school.
Perfect. And where are you located?
I am in Mississippi.
Perfect. Thanks so much for being here. Hi, Manuela Rodriguez Morales. Will you please tell us what you teach and where you're located?
I am currently in Tampa, Florida, and I teach Spanish high school.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for being here. We know we've got so much to cover today, so we're going to jump right into these questions. The first one's for our teachers. Why did you decide to transition to virtual teaching? Let's start with Miss Manuela, please.
Well, I made the decision when we moved to Tampa. The commute here is terrible. So I was like, no more. So that was like the moment that I decided to jump into virtual teaching.
Very good. Absolutely understand that. Commutes seem like they're getting pretty terrible everywhere. So you definitely have one perk of not having to drive anywhere, just from your bedroom to your home office, which is perfect. All right, Lee, tell us a little bit about why you decided to transition.
Well, actually about 2009, I learned about virtual learning and I started out teaching asynchronous. And then when this came to me in 2016, I jumped at it. And it was a match because you have the opportunity to hear the students understand and see their faces, and it was a great experience. So I'm glad I made the transition. It was wonderful.
Awesome. Well, we're so glad to hear it. We know everybody has a wealth of reasons of why they're starting to consider virtual education. It could be your commute. It could be because you want to stay home more often. Maybe you want to travel more often and you need the flexibility of being able to teach no matter where you are in the country. There are lots of reasons that might be something you're considering. And so we hope that some of the questions that we're going to go through today will help you understand if this might be a good fit for you or worth continuing to explore. So let's let's hear some more from our teachers. What is your advice to educators who are thinking about teaching virtually? This time we'll start with Lee.
Okay. I think the most important thing is to establish good relationships with the facilitators at the school. The thing is, you're not going to be working as much with parents. You're not in front of the students, but you have these wonderful facilitators in schools. So it's really important to create a strong relationship with your school and those facilitators, and it can be a really great situation. Another thing is probably to ask yourself, why are you doing it? Just like the first question, and write that down, because after maybe a month or so, or it may take a month or so till you see a real result of, oh, this really works, and the success of the students is evident, and you have great teacher-student interactions. But you may want to remind yourself as you're going through it, just because it feels different, but it's worth it.
Oh, so good. Thanks for sharing your perspective on that. We appreciate it. Manuela, would you like to add anything?
I would suggest become familiar with some of the most common, more popular that you probably already know if you're in the brick and mortar classroom, digital tools like, I don't know, Quizlet or Quizzes or Kahoot. Or those platforms have some features that you don't necessarily use in the brick and mortar classroom, but you will utilize in the virtual classroom. And to think, another thing would be to think of a virtual instruction as a very interactive activity. It's back and forth constantly. It's not you're sitting in front of your computer and they're on the other side. It's a constant interaction.
That's such a good point. For anybody who wasn't aware, what proximity learning offers is not just a recorded face that is then delivered to the students. You are actually live in front of a room full of students, and you will be interacting with them. So you still have the opportunity, and of course, you're going to build relationships with your students just like you would in a brick and mortar. The only difference is you are not physically there with them. If somebody needs to ask you to go to the bathroom, or if there might be a little fight that breaks out with students, or if somebody gets sick, all of those things you are not there for. Instead, we do have somebody called a facilitator on site who's typically a paraprofessional, and that person's going to handle all of the things that need to be handled in person, but you are live there with them. You're just not physically there with them. So thanks for sharing some of those perspectives. We appreciate it. I'm curious to know, what are some advantages of teaching virtually with proximity? So when you think back to, wow, I have the background that I did in brick and mortar, now I'm doing virtual, what are some of the advantages that stand out to you? Lee, would you like to get us started on this question as well?
Well, you don't have to pay gas to go to work. That's the most important thing right now. But I actually obtained my doctoral degree while I was here. So I was able to create my own schedule and study, and also was able to take care of a sick parent. So these things were very beneficial to me.
Wow, that's really impactful and absolutely something worth considering. If you have a schedule that you still want to teach, but maybe you don't have the capacity to teach in a full-time environment like you typically would in brick and mortar, that's some flexibility that you get with proximity. And of course, like we mentioned, no commute means no gas, no tolls, no car maintenance, which is really important right now. Manuela, what about for you? What are some advantages you've noticed?
One, I'm not physically as tired. Mm-hmm. And the main thing would be that you can really focus on those relationship with the students and the instruction. That's the focus of your day. When you're in the brick and mortar building, there's so many other distractors on a daily basis. Sometimes it's even hard to get through the day teaching. So that doesn't happen with proximity because you only focus on instruction and on the student. So that, to me, that was an advantage.
Oh, absolutely. So the idea that you get to spend all of your teaching time actually teaching. So you're not going to all of the different meetings that you would typically go. You don't have recess duty. You don't have lunch duty. You're not doing dismissal. You're not doing arrival. You're also, like we had mentioned earlier, if you're in middle school and high school, you might be used to a few fights breaking out. I don't know. You don't have to do that when you're with proximity, though. I think another thing that's worth mentioning is you're probably not going to get sick as often. I know when I was an elementary teacher, teacher, every year we were like, oh, it's the countdown till our first contagious disease. Like we are just knowing it's going to come to us. But when you work for Proximity, that's one less thing you have to worry about. So great. Thank you guys so much for sharing some of those advantages. So let's talk about the differences between teaching virtually versus brick and mortar. What translates well and what might you need a little bit more support in or training on? What have you guys noticed? So this time we're going to start with Manuela.
Well, I would say the main thing is that you spend the majority of your day actually teaching. To me, that was a difference from my last school. Another difference would be it's like two people handling a group of students because you have the facilitator with you. If you're in the brick and mortar classroom, you're by yourself. If you're teaching virtually, you have your right hand in the classroom. So this person is handling certain aspects of the day and you're handling the instruction. So that alleviates a lot. So that to me, those are the major, and then of course, digital tools and all those things that you get to learn as you go.
I was going to ask Manuela, did you have to receive any additional training to really feel prepared to teach in the virtual environment? Because we know that it's not just a direct translation from brick and mortar to virtual. You do have to have some sort of understanding of how to utilize these digital tools. What did that look like for you?
Well, when I started, that was in 2019. Yes, there was, the system is different. I mean, the structure of the company was different back then, but yes, I did have support back then. And I understand there is support today as well. Well, I know like Elizabeth she holds office hours every single day for you to just jump in and ask questions about any new digital tools or maybe just new features of the old tools. So it is a learning curve, but it's not difficult. It's not.
For sure. And Proximity does offer so many opportunities for you to receive the training that you need to not only receive training to become a better teacher, but they've also recently launched Community Connect, which is an opportunity to work and collaborate with other teachers, no matter where they are across the country on a regular basis. So hopefully you never feel like you're doing this alone. You still are part of a community of educators, even though you might not have a common teacher lounge to connect in, or there isn't that water cooler conversation, but you will still have the opportunity to connect with each other. In fact, they're doing things that are not just focused on learning digital tools, but really focusing on mental health, building relationships with your colleagues. I know they just did a Prox Walks event the other day where the idea was everybody just log into Zoom and go for a walk with your phone, and you guys can talk about whatever you want to encourage activity while building community. So Proximity is absolutely making some great strides in those arenas. Lee, what would you like to add to that?
I think that the biggest plus is, well, there's two. Virtual teaching, in this situation, you get to focus so much on building your lessons and adding your lessons and creating a plethora of activities for the students to learn every math concept or whatever it is you're teaching. And you also have the opportunity, as you mentioned, to collaborate with people all over the country to see how other schools are doing it. I've grown so much professionally and really just as a person because of the people that I have met. I mean, you know, Mississippi's rather small and I've been in school all this time, but I've had this opportunity to work with all these people, which has helped me grow and give more to my students. It's been wonderful.
Perfect. Thanks so much for sharing. All right, let's talk a little bit to some HR people about learning what scheduling looks like. How flexible is your scheduling? Do you have to work a full-time day? Do you only have to work in your state? Like, we're going to answer all these questions for y'all because I know you're wondering about them. Let's start with that scheduling component. So John, would you start us off?
I'll be happy to. So the beauty of PLI is that you can actually pick and choose the times that you actually teach. So if you want to work a half day, let's say you want to take your kids to school, drop them off, and then work and then pick them up from school, it's perfectly fine. You don't have to pay for after school care. You can really spend more time with them. If you want to help kids with homework, you can do that. But you can also work a full day if you want to. So if you want to work from 8 to 5 every day, we have classes that you can pick and choose and work from 8 to 5.
That's awesome. And Sam, do you have anything to add to that?
Oh, John covered it.
You covered it. Perfect. Okay. Well, I know some other people are wondering about things that may or may not have been dropped in the Q&A yet. We haven't scrolled through those quite yet. But some questions we've heard before around this is, one, am I able to still work full-time brick and mortar and work for proximity? Is there a world in which that is possible?
Maybe, but usually no. It's really hard to work brick and mortar and PLI because usually your classes will conflict. Obviously, we do not want you teaching from a brick and mortar school during your planning period. That is not a good model to follow because as a teacher, I hardly ever received a full planning period. There was always a fire drill, or I had to go cover a class, or something happened in the hallway. I needed to step out. My principal came in to talk to me. That will impact your ability to teach with us. So we ask that you have a 3 or 4 hour block of time available to work with us. And that time is reserved solely for PLI. That way you have the rest of your day to do anything else that you would like to do.
Perfect. So good. Thanks so much for sharing that. Does proximity learning offer any professional development? And if so, what types of PD? We started to touch on this. Sam, would you like to explain a little bit more about the PD we offer?
Yeah, so like we kind of started to touch on, we do like weekly office hours just for additional help with maybe Canvas or Zoom or anything like that. And then we also have PD once a month with our teacher effectiveness team. They have worked really hard to develop some PD, so we do that as well. And then we also do like the coffee talks and all of that just to kind of try and build that community.
Perfect. So another question I know we're frequently asked is, does any of this PD count towards my licensure renewal with my state? Do we know?
It does in some states. It really varies from state to state. So I know in Texas, yes, it does. We are currently partnering with other states to actually be certified in those states so that those CEU credits will count towards renewal. So that will help every teacher out. We're trying to limit costs for our teachers. We do not want you to have to go and pay for a course outside of work, get renewed, things of that nature. It makes it really difficult. So we want to make our teachers' lives as easy as possible.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing. So what are some benefits available for proximity? So we are talking about not just the benefit of not having to drive into work or not worry about getting sick when your students are sick. What are some of those HR benefits? John, if you will kick us off with this one.
Okay, so you are able to get full benefits whether you work full-time or part-time with us. We all have the same benefits, which I think is beautiful. The only thing that we ask is that you work at least 30 hours a week, and that includes your lesson planning time, your meeting time, things of that nature. But we have full dental, vision. You can also add your family and your spouses on if you choose to do so. If you do not need benefits, you can decline them, but we want to make sure all of our teachers are supported.
Wonderful. And I know we even have some benefits that go beyond just your traditional health, right? Like we talk about embedded PD. That's a huge benefit in itself. There are some financial management opportunities that we also offer as just like a cool benefit for some of our staff members. We also are partnering with the National Virtual Teacher Association. And if you get certification through them, another benefit is that you receive a 5% raise and a $200 reimbursement for completing that certification. So there are consistently opportunities available for you to grow as a professional and get rewarded for that. Not to mention, you are also on a path to leadership. We love the idea of being able to promote from within. And so we're constantly giving people an opportunity to kind of show their stuff and then figure out how are we able to take your career to the next level. And so we've got a lot of people at Proximity who have very quickly worked their way up that ladder. And we're super proud to see our people develop and grow like they're able to do. Is there anything anybody else would like to add to this slide that we haven't mentioned yet?
I also wanted to add, April, we just started a mental health benefit PD that every afternoon. We have office hours available if you just need to talk, because we know teaching is really hard. Working remotely can be isolating at times. So we have a group of teachers who are working with us and a therapist who is just available to talk to us. So, and that's free of charge. All you have to do is sign up and say, hey, I'm ready to talk today at 2 o'clock. And there you go.
Perfect. That is amazing. Thank you so much for putting that at the forefront right now, because we know so many organizations are hearing about this stuff. We're talking about it, but might not be ready to implement anything just yet. For Proximity to already be implementing at this point in time says a lot about the organization. Before we move on to the next question, I'm going to remind everybody to please use the Q&A box, not the chat box for questions. The chat box is only to connect with other participants. If you would like our panelists to answer a question, please copy and paste whatever you put in the chat box into the Q&A box. That's where we'll be drawing questions from later. All right, do teachers have to build their own curriculum? Okay, Sam, do you want to start us with this one?
Sure can. So short answer, no. But teachers do still need to lesson plan. And that lesson planning is going to be in accordance with, district pacing guides and state standards. But PLI has a curriculum that we provide for our teachers as kind of a starting point.
Perfect, thanks. Teachers, I would love to hear your perspective on this. How prepared have you felt when it comes to delivering curriculum, and where is your curriculum coming from?
Me? All right.
Lee.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, many times the schools request to use their curriculum, so it depends. It's a school by school situation. And I've even been in some short meetings about curriculum with other grade level teachers at schools, and that was a wonderful thing. It kept me on the same page. We do have a curriculum, but we're welcome to add, which I love to be able to add. Sometimes, if they don't understand something, we want to provide something, an additional thing, or some enrichment activities. And it's really wonderful to be able to do that.
Perfect. And Manuela, would you like to add anything?
Yes, we use, if the school doesn't prefer one curriculum, doesn't offer one curriculum, we have the curriculum already. But then, yes, you do personalize it, you do adapt it to each school. So you may have, for example, in my case, the same Spanish 2 curriculum, but it might look different depending on the school. With some schools, you meet every day, and some other schools, you meet twice a day. So the lessons are going to be different. The curriculum may be the same, but it will look
Yeah, for sure. Great point. Thanks for sharing.
Depending on the school.
Yeah, so what we do see oftentimes is you could be, like Manuela had mentioned, maybe you're a Spanish teacher, maybe you teach middle school Spanish. Well, you could teach middle school Spanish at multiple campuses in one district or across multiple campuses in one state. You could also teach across time zones. You can start your morning in one state and you're going to end your day in another. And every single one of those districts, most of the time, will provide you with the curriculum that you need to teach. And your scheduling could change. So sometimes they have a Monday through Friday schedule with the same group of kiddos. Sometimes there are AB schedules. Whatever the school is implementing, we fit in wherever they're at. And so we are going to be delivering the curriculum they provide on the scope and sequence that they provide. And you are going to alter, it's not going to be the same lesson that you teach all day long to a bunch of different students unless you're within the same district or the same campus, which is not always the case. So just know that you will be supported no matter what. If you're not implementing curriculum that comes directly from the campus or district, Proximity also has a curriculum development team, and they will oftentimes have the curriculum that they will be able to share with you, and you'll be delivering that. Thanks so much for insights around the curriculum component. Now let's talk about reciprocity. This is a question we get a whole lot. We want to know, if I'm a certified teacher in Texas, can I still teach in New York and New Mexico and Oklahoma? What are the rules around that? So let's start with John.
So that is the $1 million question. Every teacher, like you said, asks that question. And sometimes our districts will ask our teachers to become certified in their home states, meaning if they're teaching in Alabama, they need to be Alabama certified. PLI will pay for that process. We actually just hired a new certification specialist who is now going to manage this process. And she is actually going to walk you through it one-on-one, holding your hand, just to make sure you're supported, because it can be very daunting depending on the state. Some states are very easy. Other states are not. We just want to make sure our teachers are supported. They complete the process as quickly as possible. But then again, we're also going to pay for it to make sure that they are not paying for anything out of their pockets. This also makes you more marketable, because now you're licensed in multiple states instead of just in Texas or North Carolina or Florida, whichever state you live in. We want to make you more marketable and a better teacher if you decide to, broaden your horizons later.
Perfect. I love that. Please do know you do have to hold certification in one state before you can work with proximity. So you do have to be a certified teacher in any state. Once you show us that you're certified in something from somewhere, then we are able to help you with the reciprocity process for other states. Thanks so much for sharing. Okay, I'm going to leave this slide up because this has John and Sam, both of our HR representatives, email on here. So if there are any questions by the end of this webinar that you still do not have the answer to, you can then email them the questions. Please don't email them right now. We are going to continue to go through the Q&A box, and we're going to answer as many of these as we can until the hour is up. So I'm going to start at the very top. Please remember, if you have dropped something in chat, we are not reading the chat box, just the Q&A box. Copy and paste your questions there. We're also not calling on people when they raise their hand. You do have to drop it in the Q&A box, so please do so. So first question, I'm a part-time teacher and want to be considered for full-time employment. However, I wasn't offered a full-time contract. What are the requirements to be considered for full-time employment? John, will you please take that one?
I will. And basically, we are offering full-time contracts to 250 teachers right now. We've already offered those contracts. In order to be considered for full-time, you had to have a grade evaluation throughout the entire school year. Your attendance had needed to be really, really good. And then we also use feedback from your teacher effectiveness specialist and from your school districts to determine if you're going to go full-time. Also, the classes that you teach. You know, if you're teaching a high needs area, we tend to make you full-time because it's really hard to find those teachers. We are planning to offer more full-time positions in the fall, so please do not fret if you did not get offered a position right now. There's a chance you can go full-time later in the school year.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Next question. Are you able to teach concurrently online with another organization, independent contractor status, or would that be considered a conflict of interest? Sam, would you take that one?
So, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, you can teach with another organization as long as you're still able to meet the requirements for PLI.
Correct. And the point of emphasis with that is any content that you make with PLI still remains with PLI. So you couldn't create curriculum with PLI and then take it to another entity and use it with them. That information would need to remain with us, but you can work for multiple organizations if you choose to do so.
Perfect. Thank you. Next question. It says, my traditional B teaching certification recently expired. I've applied for my New York State teaching license, passed all the exams and awaiting approval. Do I have to wait until the license is officially approved before I can apply? John?
Unfortunately, yes, you do. We need you to be certified before you apply with us because our districts are going to ask for a copy of your license. And if you do not possess it, we cannot officially put you in a classroom.
Perfect. Thank you. Are teachers with higher level degrees compensated more? John.
At this time, they are not. We have one pay scale for all of our teachers, but I will say that we work really hard to increase our pay rates every year. We just increased our base pay rates to $30 an hour, where they were $22 at the beginning of last year, so they've gone up to $8. And we also offer bonuses to our teachers throughout the year based on certain standards. So there's always a chance to make more money.
Perfect. Okay, will the teachers use the platform required by the school, or will there be professional development with proximity? So I think I understand the question. It sounds like we're wondering about what type of platform we use. You should know that we use Canvas as our learning management system. So that's what you're going to use to upload assignments, homework, grades, all of that good stuff. We do use Zoom for all video delivery. And so I hope that answers your question. If we misinterpret it, please retype it. Next one, do you lose your health benefits once working with proximity? Does proximity have full-time certified special education positions or only part-time? So that was a twofold question. John.
So you will not lose, well, you could lose your health benefits, meaning if you're talking about state benefits, yes, you will lose those. Most states will freeze them for you for 5 years. And if you decide to go back to a brick and mortar, then you can just recoup that time and start using it again. We do have special ed roles available if you want to become a special ed teacher. I know a lot of our elementary schools ask for special ed teachers just because there's a high need in that area.
Perfect. I already have a virtual school certificate with the Illinois Virtual School and the Illinois State Board of Education. Is this acceptable? The answer is you've got to be a certified teacher with Illinois State. So if you are certified to teach any grade level for the state of Illinois and through their State Board of Education, then yes, that is definitely an acceptable place to start. Next, do you teach special ed students? Samantha, will you talk about all the different types of students we teach and the different subjects we teach?
We serve all students, K through 12, special ed, non-special ed. We serve all subjects from elementary all the way up through high school, AP, calculus. So yes.
We are teaching your core curriculum. We teach all electives. We teach career and technology courses. Pretty much if you can dream it, we teach it. There is always, some of those obviously don't have as much of a need as others do, but some of our high needs area do include special education, foreign languages, science, math. We are definitely seeing, I know ASL a lot of times counts as a foreign language, and we tend to need a lot of ASL educators as well. So we are definitely accepting applications for pretty much any position you could think of when it comes to teaching in the K-12 environment. Next one, every school has their preferred curriculum. Are we given the curriculum and or teacher instructions and guidance before teaching the class? John, can you talk about what the process looks like to receive the curriculum before you deliver it?
Yes, so I'll use Lee. So when Lee started her classes, what will happen is we will go to Lee and say, hey, Lee, we have some classes at Austin ISD that we would like you to take. We would explain what those classes are, the time for those classes, the curriculum that they're using, and if we know where the current teacher left off, we'll talk about pacing and things of that nature with you. If we do not know, we'll meet with the school district, find out where we are, and provide that information to Lee. The caveat to all of this is that our teachers always come to PLI. They hardly ever talk to the administrators at a specific school. We just want to streamline communication. It's really important that they talk to us instead of talking to the school district because it can become really confusing.
Perfect, thank you. I'm still seeing some questions drop in the chat, and I'm seeing some people raise their hand. Please put all of your questions in the question and answer box. That's where we'll be reading these questions from. Next question, is this a job that will last during the full school year?
Yes, yes. Most of our roles are long-term roles for the entire school year. Some of them carry over until the summer as well. And then we also offer tutoring after school in some instances.
Perfect. Next question, will teachers receive training to utilize your platform? Manuela, did you receive any training to utilize Canvas and Zoom?
Yes, you will receive some training. They will show you how to use every section in the Canvas platform. And then you will have some sessions with someone to teach you how to work with Zoom. And yeah, you will have some training on those platforms.
Perfect. Yeah, they actually have a really comprehensive onboarding. So you will go through a lot of onboarding before you are ever put in front of students. And that is part of that connected communities that we were talking about earlier. That's one tier of what that entire initiative is about, making sure from the very first day people feel connected and they feel like that they have access to the resources that they need and they are prepared for success. Next question, what are our responsibilities regarding IEPs, 504s, and ESOL progression? Lee, are you able to speak to that?
Yes, I worked at a school and generally they've always provided that information and what accommodations that I can make in this environment. And I spoke to, usually I spoke to the special education teacher in that is assigned to that class. And it's very wonderful the way that the school wants to work with you and gives you, we come up with things as needed. And that we are required to meet all IEP requests, yes.
Yeah, for sure. So we still do comply with all of the schools' requirements. All of the schools are serving public school students. And so we do have to still provide the same type of services and supports that you typically would if you were in person. If an IEP is in place, if a BIP is in place, you are going to implement those. And we also want you to know that proximity learning is not a school. We oftentimes get that question as well. We are not a school. We place teachers in schools that already exist. And so you are going to live stream into, For example, maybe an 8th grade class in Dallas ISD. The school building exists, all the students come into their classroom, they sit at their desks, they look at the front, and instead of there being a teacher, you are live streamed on a large screen. They also will be able to watch you on their individual devices with headphones so that they feel like they're having almost a one-on-one instruction experience, even though they're in a room full of other students. So I hope that helps better understand what that format looks like. Another question, if I'm available all day on Tuesday, can I work for proximity? So can you work 8 hours, 1 day a week? Is that an option, John?
Typically, no. We want teachers who are available at least 3 days a week because we really do not have a lot of 1 day a week courses. And if we do, it's primarily elementary and those get picked up really, really fast. So if you're available 3 days a week, that works out a lot better.
Thank you. How about summer school? Is that offered?
Yes. Yes, and that varies on the school district. Some districts have a lot of summer school positions and others do not, but yes, we do have summer school.
Perfect. All right. Do you have a list of states right now that PD will count towards CEUs for?
We are building that comprehensive list right now. Our Director of Innovation, Daryl Chesley, is working on that right now. So he's heading that up and we will put that information out on our website as soon as we get it.
Great. Is employment through proximity W-2 status or a contractor basis?
It is definitely
W-2.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. W-2 status. That's right. So you are going to be a full-time teacher or a part-time teacher, but you do have your benefits. They are taking payroll taxes. We are contributing to Social Security. So great question. Thank you. Are there a certain amount of live instructional hours required? Do the hours full-time or part-time include planning, grading, etc.? John, back to you for that.
So for full-time, our full-time teachers have to work a full 7-hour day, but they're paid for an 8-hour day. So we give you 1 hour paid planning. If you are part-time, meaning that you're working 2 to 3 hours a day or taking 2 to 3 classes a day, your planning time is incorporated into your day because you have time after your classes or before your classes to actually plan.
Great. All right, next question. Is the salary set or will there be opportunities to increase from the approximated $20 an hour? John?
So our pay rates have been raised for the 22-23 school year to $30 an hour. So yes, we have listened to our teachers and increased that pay rate.
And like we had mentioned earlier, if you receive NVTA certification, you get an additional 5% raise for that as well. So, and then there are sometimes opportunities, they're definitely not guaranteed, and oftentimes you'll have to apply for it, but sometimes there are opportunities in which they need added support, maybe around building new curriculum, and they're going to ask the teachers, do you have any interest in doing that? And if you're selected, they're going to pay you stipends for doing some of that work as well. Do you currently have job openings? I was a little confused since I received an email saying there are no current openings after the full application process. Sam, can you speak to that?
So yes, we definitely have job openings. You may receive that email if you are an elementary teacher. We are currently waiting for some contracts to come back, so we don't know what elementary openings we will have, but we also don't want to hire you as an elementary teacher and then put you into limbo where you kind of wait to find out whether you may or may not have classes. So as we start to figure out what our openings will be, especially for elementary, we will reach out to schedule an interview once we kind of have a better idea of the number of teachers we will need to hire.
Perfect, thank you. How do I transition from being a part-time teacher to a full-time teacher with proximity, John?
So the biggest piece of that is show up for work every day, do a great job, have great evaluations, attend our PD sessions, but always want to grow and evolve. And we will notice you. The NVTA certification also helps because that's just an added bonus. But if you're doing a great job, your VPs or your assistant principals will let us know, and we'll make that determination usually at the end of a school year.
Perfect, thank you. So do you end up with a fixed schedule or does it change from week to week? Sam, can you speak to that?
You get a fixed schedule. So the really nice thing is that you know what your schedule is, and it's consistent for either the semester or the school year, kind of depending on the school.
Perfect. All right, John, a question for you. If I need to travel overseas, can I record lessons until I'm able to reconnect with my class? And do we get personal days?
So I'll answer those in reverse. So you get 5 personal days as a part-time teacher. You get 10 personal days as a full-time teacher that you can use at your discretion. If you are going to travel overseas, we ask you to do one of two things. One, let us know that you're going to travel. Sometimes you're able to teach overseas if you have good Wi-Fi connection. If you're not going to have good Wi-Fi connection, we'll place subs in your classroom until you return to work. So you would just request time off. We place a sub in your classroom. You leave lesson plans, and instruction continues until you return. That is the same model that we use in brick and mortar.
Perfect. Thank you. Do we proctor any tests for schools during standardized testing? No. What happens to your schedule during that time? John, can you tell us?
Usually we ask you to be available to log into class. Some schools will ask you to log in and just be there for the kids. And then in some situations, they'll just tell you, hey, you do not have to log in that day. We will still pay you because it's not your fault that the school asked you to go async or not log in that day. So you'll still be paid if your kids are taking state exams.
Perfect. We kind of touched on this, but John, if you'll clarify, how does my work apply to the Texas retirement system?
It does not, because we are not a school district, as Dr. Willis was alluding to earlier. We cannot contribute to that, but we do have a 401k plan and a retirement plan with our wealth management team that can help you with retirement if you want to enroll in those benefits.
Perfect. I'll take the next question. It says, do you follow a traditional school year with Christmas and spring breaks along with summer vacation? So yes, being that we're not the school, whatever school you're assigned to, that would be the school's calendar that you follow, or the multiple schools that you're assigned to, you would follow all of their calendars. And so yes, our schools are all public schools and you will be following their traditional school year calendars. All right, next one. Do teachers have to provide all of their own tech equipment? Sam, can you answer that? What are they provided with?
Yes, so teachers need to be able to provide a computer or laptop that's 5 years or 5 years old or newer. And then they also need to have a second monitor. And then they need to have, good Wi-Fi as well.
Perfect. Somebody wants to know, John, when you said you should have really, really good attendance, what do you mean by really, really good?
That means just like in brick and mortar schools, you are not calling out once a week. You're only taking time off. If you need a mental health day, that's fine. But what we do not want to see is that every week you're calling out, or 3 times a month you're calling out. We want you to be here for our kids and support them as much as possible. So when anything, understand that emergencies occur, just communicate that with us and we will support you as much as we possibly can.
Thank you. All right, another question. I'll take this one. I currently hold 6 certifications. Can you teach across states and subjects? Yes, as we had previously mentioned, you are able to teach as many different subjects as you're certified for. And as far as the states go, we support you in getting the reciprocity that you need to meet each state's requirement. How will I know HR contact applicants for interviews or make contracts for teaching? I'm not sure I quite understand that question, but John, I'm going to ask another question that's showing up here. What's the next step? We watched the webinar. We love it. We've learned what we needed to know. How do we become part of the PLI family?
Great question. You can use the screen. I would ask everyone to screenshot the slide that's visible right now and use the link, Teach With Us. You can use that to apply with us. Once we receive your application, Sammy's team will actually reach out to you, schedule some time for an interview, and make sure that you fully understand who we are. And this is going to be a great fit for you.
Perfect. Thank you. Still seeing some questions drop in the chat box. Please drop them in the Q&A box. That's where we're monitoring questions right now. The next question, are your elementary classes self-contained or departmentalized? Again, those are not our classes. They're whatever the school that we contract with offers. And so if the school offers departmentalized elementary, then that's what we'll be asking for. If it's self-contained, then that's what we'll be posting. So we are filling the needs of schools across the country. We are not providing our own school. I'm an early childhood bilingual special education teacher. Are there any virtual settings for this certification? Yes, if you are certified in a state in bilingual and in special ed, then there are absolutely going to be openings for you to apply for. Can I run my life coaching business after work hours and on weekends, or does the contract state I'm only allowed to teach? So we had mentioned before that there really is not a conflict of interest. You teach your hours with Proximity, and then however you choose to spend the rest of your time, as long as it doesn't interfere with your responsibilities with us, that's totally up to you. If you build anything for Proximity, it stays with Proximity. Right. Next question. Do your special education teachers lead IEP meetings in addition to supporting the students? I'll go back to Manuela. Manuela, have you ever had to lead any IEP meetings?
No, I have been informed of the meetings. I have been invited to the meetings. Actually, a couple of months ago, I couldn't attend because I was in another class, but my input was taken into account. But it wasn't required of me to be present because of the conflict of times.
Perfect, thank you. I'm certified in Maryland and got employed at Proximity. Do I have to apply to be certified in Texas later on? Not if you're not teaching in any Texas schools. You only have to be certified in the schools that you're teaching in. And whenever that time comes, we'll help you go through the reciprocity process. Can you give us an example of what would trigger a bonus, John?
That varies. It really depends on our need. Like this year, we offer bonuses for teachers who accepted 4 or more classes. They received a $2,000 bonus. Teachers who accepted 6 or more classes received a $4,000 bonus. 2 years ago, we had a bonus for attendance. If you had great attendance and did not use all your PTO, you received a bonus. We typically try to do it based on the trends and the needs of our schools, if that makes sense.
Perfect, thank you. A couple of questions from one person. Is required PD paid since we're not salaried? And 2, invariably time working offline will be needed. How does this figure into pay? Is there paid planning time per week or per day? And can we see a sample of the material you provide to teachers to use? So there were a lot of questions in that one post. John, would you like to tackle any of those? And if you need me to repeat them, let me know.
Nope, I have it up. So let's do it in reverse. We typically will not be able to show you in an interview any curriculum that we have just because it's an interview. Once you are hired, we will show you the curriculum that we have, make sure you fully understand it, and we'll also show you what each school is using to make sure it aligns with what you need to do to be successful in your classroom. If you are a full-time teacher, you are receiving paid not PTO, but planning time. So you get 1 hour paid planning every day. If you are part-time, that time is included in your part-time hours, meaning if you teach 3 hours a day, we would give you an hour of planning time, but it's included in the $30 an hour that you're receiving for classes. And I want to clarify, we do not pay by hour. We pay based on the number of live days that your classes are taught. And what that means is if Manuela was teaching 4 special ed classes that are 3 days a week, she would receive a rate or almost a salary for teaching those 3 classes. So we do not pay by the hour. But I just broke it down by hour so that people would understand it. During the interview, we can explain it to you in detail.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Next question says, will my retirement restrictions apply to all teaching assignments? John, can you take that one?
It may. It really depends on your state. Some states are lenient and they will allow you to teach more classes. And I think if what I'm understanding that question to be is most retired teachers can come back in a 50% capacity and teach, and most states are okay with that. Some do not care and they will allow you to come back and work all day. It really depends on that process. So should you interview with us and you're hired and you have questions about that, email me. I'll be happy to meet with you and walk you through that process.
Perfect. All right, friends, we have less than 15 minutes left, so we're still going to burn through as many questions as possible. Please continue to use the Q&A feature, not the chat box, for your questions. Sam, if you'll take this next one, do we have a company Zoom account or do we have to pay for our own accounts?
We have a company Zoom.
Perfect. Easy one. Next easy one for you, Sam. Do you require teachers to have experience with Canvas in order to be eligible for employment?
Our teachers don't need to have experience with Canvas, but they do need to be comfortable using technology in the classroom.
Perfect. Another one for you, Sam. Can you teach for Proximity from an international location or in the US only?
So unfortunately, we're only able to hire teachers that are located in the US.
Perfect. Thank you. Do you have a retirement plan or do we contribute to the state we teach in, such as TRS, or do we pay into Social Security? John, reiterate this one more time.
We are not able to pay into any state's retirement plan, but we do have a retirement plan at PLI that you can pay into if you choose to do so.
Perfect. When is the start date for fall classes at PLI? And can teachers teach for a semester, or do you have to commit to the whole year? John?
So classes vary. In the Northeast, it's usually after Labor Day. In the Southeast, it usually happens mid-August. We would like you, if your classes run concurrently for the entire year, we would want you to accept those classes for the entire year. We want to be fair to our kids. We do not want to put multiple teachers in the classroom. It's just not fair to them. And the last half of that was, I think I answered the full question about that.
Yeah, thank you. Do you offer interventions, for example, dyslexia intervention? John, is that something we offer?
Yes, if that needs to occur, just email me. I'll be happy to work with you and help you out with that.
Perfect. Does pay continue throughout the summer when school is out? Isn't this something new, John, that we're starting?
It is. Our full-time teachers are paid over 12 months, meaning that they are now 12-month employees. So during the summer, they are going to teach summer school or write curriculum with us. Our part-time teachers right now are on a 10-month contract, so they're not paid during the summer. We are starting to discuss ways to pay all of our teachers over 12 months just to help them out a little bit, but we have not rolled it out yet.
Thank you. Is onboarding paid?
Yes, you receive a $100 stipend for onboarding for the virtual academy that you're going to attend. It's a 2-day academy that gives you a great foundation into virtual instruction. We will give you a $100 stipend for attending those.
Thank you. And how about, this is an interesting question. Will the school ever interview me? How do you know you're a good fit for the school you're placed in?
So some schools will actually ask to speak with our teachers just to make sure they're a good fit. We require every teacher to do a Zoom bio in their virtual academy, and that's just basically an introduction. And it just lets you know who you are, what you've taught, and what you like to do. It helps the school understand who you are, and it's also just like an ID badge. So if Dr. Willis is going to come in and teach elementary, I'm the principal, I watch her Zoom bio. So when she shows up on camera, I'm like, okay, that is Dr. Willis. So we're doing everything we can to help out with that.
Perfect. Thank you. So to teach AP courses, do I need to be certified with the College Board in order to teach those courses? John?
In some states, yes. It really varies from state to state. I wish we had a national standard for that, but unfortunately we do not. Some states are fine with you teaching AP without being certified as long as you have AP experience.
Great. John, another one for you. How is priority decided for who takes what class, and is work guaranteed at least 3 days a week?
So yes, I will say yes, it's guaranteed because the way our contracts are rolling in right now, you will have plenty of opportunities to teach. We really will place teachers based on their certifications, meaning if you are in a high needs area, we're going to place you first. Or if you have open availability, meaning that you say that you can teach anytime all day, we're going to reach out to you first. And then we'll start to get to the teachers who maybe say that they're only available every day from 10 to 2, if that makes sense.
Perfect. I did apply for a specific position, but it said to refer me to the webinar. How do I know I will hear back and will teach remotely since I already taught 1 year with a different company? Sam, can you respond to that?
So I'm not sure I'm understanding the question fully. It sounds like you may have filled out the interest form and not applied on Talent Ed, which is what we use for our applications. So once you submit an application in Talent Ed, the link is on the screen underneath our emails. Someone will reach out to you from my team within 48 hours. If you don't hear back from with your application within 48 hours, please email me and I will look into it for you.
Thank you. All right. I've been teaching for a district for many years, but now they may terminate me. Do you take that information into account, and will it hurt me in the hiring process? Sam?
So if you are terminated, we would need documentation from your school that says that you're being terminated in good standing, and that they're not going to come after your license for anything. As long as we have that documentation, assuming interview and everything goes well, it should not necessarily be an issue.
Thank you. I hold a license in Ohio, already applied for my 5-year renewal, but it's not effective until July 1st. Would this prevent me from being considered, John?
No, it will not.
Great. Are there specific hours we must work, even if part-time, John?
We want everyone to be available at least during a 4-hour block of time every single day.
Thank you. I see some people trying to raise their hand to ask questions. Please drop it in the Q&A box. Are there
And to
any?
add to that, sorry, April, to add to that, that needs to be during school hours. So if you're only available in the evenings, we're not able to hire you.
Perfect. Thank you. That was actually the next question. Could you only work during after school hours? So no, you cannot only work after school. Thank you. Are SPED teachers responsible for writing IEPs and 504s? I feel like we kind of touched on this. We are not required to go to the meetings. It does sound like they seek your insight though. You're not a SPED director, and so you will be implementing whatever the school district is already providing. Does anybody need to add to that? Good.
Nope.
Next question. What is the ratio of planning time to the number of classes taught? John, can you speak to that?
If you're full-time, you have to work a 7-hour day, meaning that you're going to teach, if it's 60-minute classes, 7 60-minute classes. If there are 90-minute classes, then there are 4 or 5 90-minute classes, and then you will get an hour, hour and a half of planning time. If you are part-time, then you're just going to teach your classes, and then we're going to rely on you to have some time at the end of the day to plan for your next classes.
Perfect. Thank you. Can we get a copy of the transcript and all questions and answers? I know we definitely send the recording out. I would assume the transcript also goes with that. Does anybody else know the answer to that? I would think so, but I'm hesitant to guarantee it because I haven't been on that side before. So I would hope so. You'll definitely get a copy of the recording. Next question, if you're not working 7 hours a day, your pay per hour will not be $30 unless you can manage to teach without planning. Is that correct, John?
That is not correct because, again, we do not pay by the hour. We actually pay based on the frequency and duration of your classes.
Perfect. I'll take the next question. Can you reiterate what the NVTA certification is? It's the National Virtual Teacher Association certification, and it is essentially a national credential that sets you apart from all other educators, saying that you are well equipped to provide high quality virtual instruction. You can learn more at virtualteacherassociation.org. Teacher is singular, virtualteacherassociation.org. The certification course is $599 or available for 3 payments of $210. However, if you go through it while you're working with Proximity, we will reimburse you $200 upon completion and provide you with a 5% raise. Next question, are teachers with more seniority within Proximity given priority when choosing class assignments? John, can you speak to that?
Right now, we're staffing our full-time teachers first, and then we go to teachers who are already with the school district. So let's say you're already working with X school district and the school district wants you back. We will put you back in those classes if you choose to go back into those classes. And then we will just open the process up and ask you, hey, look, we have 6 math classes available. Are you interested? And we'll give those classes to you if you choose to take them.
Perfect. It said, maybe I missed it, but if I'm hired, will it be in my current district? No, probably not actually, probably a very low chance that it would be in your current district. You will have the availability to teach anywhere across the country that you choose. If you do not want to pursue reciprocity, then we would encourage you to only look for openings within your state. But you are not relegated to only teach within your state if you are interested in pursuing reciprocity. Next question, we've been trying to secure a contract with Proximity for multiple grade levels. I've sent a few emails, but I haven't heard from anybody. It sounds like this might be from a school district more than a teacher. If that's the case, please do tell us a little bit more about your situation by emailing John here. His email is JROLLACK@proxlearn.com. And if this is not an HR question for him, he'll be able to point you in the right direction. Is there an opportunity to become a vice principal or a principal, John?
Yes. Again, we promote from within. We love to hire our teachers into full-time roles. So if you're interested in that, you can always apply. We post those jobs frequently on Indeed, Glassdoor, and LinkedIn. So look for them. And if you're interested, please apply.
Perfect. How about, we have a couple of questions on here about becoming a substitute. How do we request to be a sub, John?
So we on TalentNet, and you can actually use the link that's up here. We actually have a sub job posting listed. If you're interested in becoming a sub, you can apply there. We're not actively hiring subs right now. We will do so once school starts back. We just do not want to hire you and you're going to sit in limbo for 6 weeks. We want to make sure you can actively work when you start coming on board.
Perfect. How often do we pay? Is it monthly or is it every 2 weeks?
You're paid bi-weekly every other Friday.
Perfect. If there's a weather disaster due to flood, storms, etc., how do we handle not having Wi-Fi during those times?
At that point, you will reach out to your VP and let your VP know that, hey, my Wi-Fi is out. We will ask for documentation. Not saying that we do not believe you, but we have 1,000 teachers, so we ask for documentation, and we will still make sure that you're paid, and we'll place a sub in your class for that day.
Perfect. Would I still, and you do get paid for that, you just said, right?
Yes.
Next question. Perfect. How about, do we grade student work?
Yes, you will be expected to grade student work. Your facilitator may assist you with that, but yes, you're expected to teach, lesson plan, and grade.
Great. Is proximity in all 50 states?
We are in 32 states right now. We are primarily on the East Coast to Southeast, and we're moving to the Midwest and out towards the West Coast right now.
Perfect. Skipping some of these questions. Do you get FMLA for maternity leave?
Great question. So yes, we will hold your job for you for maternity leave. So if you've not worked with us for an entire year, we will grant you leave, but we will not pay you. If you work with us for over a year, you will be paid for 6 weeks of maternity leave.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, friends, it is 4 p.m. Central. We made it to the very top of the hour. We want to thank you guys so much for your interest in proximity. We apologize to anybody's questions who we didn't have the opportunity to get to. But again, we encourage you to please just copy and paste those questions. You can send them to John or to Samantha. Both of their emails are on this slide right now. They will be able to either answer your questions or forward them to somebody else who will be able to support you. It was a pleasure spending our afternoon with you. We also want to thank Ms. Manuela, Miss Lee. We want to thank Samantha and John. You guys, so appreciative of your time and sharing your expertise, your perspectives, and your insights. Thank you guys so much. We do hope to see many of you in the PLI team very soon. Have a great rest of your afternoon.